Welcome back to the weekly Brooklyn Market Update, brought to you by Engel & Volker's Brownstone Brooklyn. My name, of course, is Katriona, and I'm joined again today by Donald Brennan. Happy New Year, Donald.
Happy New Year, Katriona. Hope you had some time to spend with your family over the holidays there and get some rest and catch up, which looks like to be a pretty active transaction season coming up here.
That's what we're looking at, which is great. So obviously the data we're looking at today encompasses the last few days of 2020 and the first weekend in 2021. So a bit of a mix and a time frame that usually can be a little quiet. So I suppose when we look at this data, we just want to see what's happening, see if it's the calm before the storm, or we're going to bounce back to where we were before. So Donald, did we see many listings coming on the market in this past week?
No, we didn't, and that shouldn't be a surprise, obviously, to anybody out there. And that, historically, we are in the slowest part of the year here, just pre kind of end of year holidays, and running through what has typically been a very quiet January and most of February. We had 17 listings come to market. Those were 2 in the luxury segment, which were both condo resales. And the other 15 listings coming to market below 2.25 were primarily condominiums, both resales and new development, making up half of that number. So those are the lowest numbers we've seen in the last 6 months as far as new to market listings go.
But were contracts still being signed by those people who were very keen to make sure they got what they wanted before we started 2021?
Yeah, it certainly looks that way. The activity for in-contract deals, we had 13 in the luxury segment of the marketplace and 47 below the 2.25 number for a total of 60. So, in the luxury segment, that's 12. We averaged 12 per week in December, 14 per week in November, and 12 per week in October. So it's pretty stable and consistent there through the last quarter of the year. Below the 2.25 number, we had 58 per week on average going into contract, 62 per week in November, and 68 per week in October. So a small downhill trend there, but still very healthy activity.
So obviously this is January, not a typical January, as we know, because it's our first January in the context of still being in a COVID global pandemic. So it feels like it's a little bit of a short month in terms of the number of the weeks, but I don't know whether that's just psychological. But how are we feeling about what we might see seasonality-wise in January?
Yeah, so as we've spoken about before, people are home a lot more than they've ever been. There's certainly some anxiety still in the environment related to the pandemic, and will it only be getting better or not, or be getting worse? So it's quite a bit of trepidation out there. But people, I think, in general, are looking and interested in moving if it makes sense for them. So I'm expecting, as we've said previously, that the activity, the buyer pool will be active more so this month than maybe the last couple of years, and looking for new living accommodations. Some of that was deferred from back in the primary period of sales activity, which was April, May, June of last year. So that's still kind of lagging out there. So my expectation is it should be more active than we've ever seen in the last few years for this time of year.
We know that elsewhere in the country, they have real issues with supply and demand, which causes some crazy situations with buyers and listings. I was listening the other day to someone who said that they'd had 95 offers on a property that was down in Texas. I mean, 95 offers, that's insane. So do you think that in Brooklyn, that for certain inventory types, we might be approaching a situation of an issue with supply versus demand?
Well, that's certainly strong demand there. That must have been something pretty special. I don't know if that was priced right or not, but regardless, that's pretty impressive. So again, looking at our how we segment the market here, we have the luxury segment above 2.25, and then everything below that, which makes up about 85% of the market. Certain types of assets, townhouses and co-ops, in that below 2.25. Certainly strong demand. There's absorption, you know, in all property types of deals going into contract at a rate that's in excess of the number of properties coming onto the market. Definitely evident in the last 3 months of the year for the below the 2.25 number. And you know, townhouses seeing the most demand, with 130% of deals going into contract as measured against the same new to market listings over the same time frame. And co-ops even stronger at 161%. And those are resales. I don't think we had maybe one sponsor co-op deal in the last 6 months here in Brooklyn, but that particular housing type is usually all about resales. For condo product, the resales, you know, absorbing again strong at 134% of measured against the number of properties coming to market over the last 3 months. And then condo new development trailing those other three types of housing and showing an 88% absorption rate. So there's definitely excess supply there for that particular type of housing. So, you know, and what's really interesting about looking at these numbers this morning, I just, you know, thinking about where the demand here is both in the 2.25 and above, the townhouses and co-ops, you know, outpacing even condo resales or definitely new development, but in some cases condo resales. And just thinking about, you know, why that is. And you know, one of the reasons to me is, and it's probably pretty intuitive possibly, you know, it's what I think a lot of people come to Brooklyn for. It's that historic fabric in these, you know, very manageable, low rise, mid density type of populations of these walkable communities and 60 something neighborhoods to choose from. You know, that is, I think, in a lot of people's minds, the essence of Brooklyn urban living. And so I guess shouldn't be a surprise there. In the luxury segment, you know, little less demand there. We had about 50% of the new to market listings finding buyers over the last 6 months. But again, townhouses and co-ops leading the pack there. Townhouses had about a 60% absorption rate and co-ops a 62% absorption rate. Condo resales coming in at 40 and new development just a little bit under there at 38. So, you know, again, strong demand, very strong demand under the 2.25 number. And I don't see any reason why that would, you know, change to any great degree going forward here, other than the lack of you know, inventory for buyers to pick up. Interest rates, you know, all indication is that they're you know, stable, if not even possibly dropping a little bit, which they have, I think, last few weeks. So that makes certainly things much more affordable and attractive for buyers either coming into the market for the first time or trading up at those price points. Seems to be still a little bit of a difference at the luxury segment, but as we've said before at the end of last year, and we show in our market reports, our weekly market reports, that activity of deals going into contract for the luxury segment is increasing at a nice healthy clip over the last 6 months. Somewhere around 300% from a, you know, fairly low, timid environment back in June to pretty healthy environment. So that I see that trend continuing as well. So I don't know if we get to any. Certainly be interested to see a property generate that many offers. We certainly get that many visits almost in certain properties. So, you know, selling something recently. Prospect Lefferts, you know, 30 viewings in about 3 weeks, and you know, that's good, and it's a real nice indication of where that segment of the market is and the confidence people have in the neighborhoods that you know, make up Brooklyn and Brooklyn itself and New York City. It's a great indicator of people's willingness to commit long term to live here.
Absolutely. So that's it from us this week. Check back in next week, of course, for more accurate, informed data on the Brooklyn property market as we progress through the start of 21. Goodbye from me, and I will see you next week, Donald.
Yes, see you next week, Katriona. And just as a reminder, always, you know, everybody's circumstances are different, right? What we talk about here is kind of generalized data in a sense. And but we know no two assets are really the same, basically, especially in the resales market. So never hesitate to reach out if you need guidance. This is complimentary advice, and happy to share our knowledge with you so you can be as informed as possible, whether you're selling, buying, if you're a landlord and renting. So never hesitate to reach out.
Great. Thank you and goodbye.
Have a good day. Bye.